group, one area that is constantly on our minds as librarians is how we can best support our teams to continue to provide library services that are safe spaces for our students to study, reflect and learn. Our frontline teams of library and information assistants work so hard to achieve library spaces that are both welcoming and informed. Coupled with increasing behavioural challenges, people living with mental health issues and learning disabilities, language barriers, and a user population that is both diverse and can also maybe say sometimes unreasonably demanding. So today we've got two fantastic speakers that will offer us all some practical advice on how we as a profession and a service can work to alleviate some of these challenges for our teams. So during the presentation today, please feel free to fire in some questions in the chat box, and myself and Sandra Jane and Susan from the College Development Network can also pass that over to the presenters at the end of the presentation. As we've been banging on for the last 10 minutes, if you can ensure that your speakers are muted while the presenter is talking. So without further ado, first up to the mic is Iain Riley. Iain currently works for Glasgow Life as an information officer and was part of the team who won the CILIP 2008 Libraries Change Lives Award for the innovative work supporting people experiencing homelessness with the In Reach project. The project was developed in partnership with Glasgow Central Citizens Advice Bureau to provide counselling, support and advice to people affected by homelessness in Glasgow. So over to you, Iain.
Thanks, Ben. Hello, everyone. I'm just going to do a brief introduction. As Benny touched on, I'm an information officer based in the Mitchell Library with Glasgow Libraries. I've been here for around 6 years. Worked in libraries in total for around 15 years. My past experiences with mental health in the workplace have actually been quite positive. I think I've been lucky in the times that I've worked in the places I've been, that I've had quite a supportive group around us, managers as well as members of staff. And I think I've learned from these experiences and tried to pass that on in every role that I've been in since. The role I'm currently in, there's a lot of line management involved, dealing with a lot of staff, new and old, to Glasgow Library, so it's quite a mix, and I hope that some of my experiences work well in the workplace and help people be able to discuss any issues that arise. And I'm interested in mental health in general has just been from family members having issues over the years that perhaps have been unresolved that we would have liked to have seen resolved, and I'd like to think I can help people in the workplace. So I'll begin just talking a bit about what happens at the moment in Glasgow libraries. So it's from the public service sort of point of view rather than the colleges and universities. At the moment, I would say that frontline staff are facing quite a difficult challenge of trying to deliver an equitable and consistent service to all the library users. The variety of people that we have in, the societal, the cultural differences can be quite challenging. And as much as we like to maintain through the processes that we have in place a consistent approach to everything, that's not necessarily always achievable. Processes can be as consistent as possible and staff can follow through in these processes as much as we can, but for the individual issues that pop up regardless of who the users are. So sometimes a different approach is kind of necessary. So if it's that difficult for staff, what's the sort of things that we can do to support them? I'm going to mention something quite often, I would say, and it's training. Training is one of the key things that we can do for arming our members of staff to be able to deal with what we see every day. Lots of things on offer, lots of things out there, but lots of things we could be doing more of. Equalities training, I think, is quite a key thing to be looking at. We've recently done courses on unconscious bias, which has been really good. Rolling that out to a lot of the frontline staff would be good, just a different way of thinking about the people that are coming through your door and your initial thoughts and reactions to people coming through your door. Disability awareness training, I think, would be, again, another one that we do offer out, but it's not, none of these are mandatory necessarily. But maybe should be at the beginning of your journey in libraries, sort of training things that you should be on, like these, because you're going to be facing challenges every single day, and you need to be prepared for them. But one of the key things that we are maybe failing at is mental health. We had mental health first aid, mental health training, the first aid toolkit that we sent people on, but again, I don't know how well it's taken up, and there's always that fear that staff have that if you go on these things, then you're going to be the go-to person to deal with it. Another way of supporting the staff is just giving them the space to talk, just having an approachable atmosphere in work. If you're managing staff, you need to be there for them through either the issues that they're experiencing on the desk or the issues they may be experiencing at home. We also need to know what agencies are out there. So for an information service, it's kind of key. We need a list of support agencies to work with, and although we have lots available on our intranet where folk can access this information, it's just not talked about enough, it's not shared enough, it's not mandatory to have a look through these things, and people are often scared of these conversations. And we also need information on external agencies we can point people towards, because the list of support agencies that can assist colleagues can also be available to the public. So you think ultimately, as an information service, it's this key information that we require to be able to better support our patrons. So who can we turn to in need? Where can we seek assistance? The need for the people who come through our door changes quite a lot, and we need to be able to adapt to that and recognise that it's our duty to support staff through that. For colleagues themselves and needing assistance, we always have our employee relations, which is an independent organisation, and they offer free confidential advice to either a member of staff or their family or a partner, loved ones, and they can access it anytime at all, day or night, online, on the phone, or by email. Again, the uptake's quite slow. It's as if people are just generally aware of it. And as an information service, it's our keys, our bread and butter information, so if we're not supplying that well enough to our members of staff, then we can't very well be expecting them to supply that again to the patrons, the third party. Everyone can hear me all right in this background noise, is not too distracting. For future provision, I think within the organisation I'm in at the moment, there's been an acknowledgement that perhaps we can do a bit more to tackle mental health issues at work. In the public services, there's a noticeable increase in pressure that the frontline staff are put under, and that's either with funding cuts to services directly or indirectly through separate services being cut, and the knock-on effect that has on our local communities. So supporting staff on the front line is essential. We do need to be able to arm them with the right tools to effectively deal with anything that arises. And again, with a broken record, it's about more training, making sure the staff are aware of what's happening out there and what they can do. At the moment for us, learning from past experiences, we've been trialling, this is the managers who've been trialling this new project from SAMH, the Scottish Association of Mental Health, and the professionals in looking at ordering training for the managers themselves, so that the managers can start those difficult conversations with staff, whether that's someone who's disclosed a mental health issue to you, or somebody who maybe suspects has a mental health issue. It's about kind of breaking down that barrier and hopefully starting the conversation. That can often be the most difficult. The difficult part is just that initial conversation. Something that's very uncomfortable. to approach someone, maybe if you feel they are struggling. If they come to you, even then, if they come to speak to you, if it's something you're often very unprepared for it. So again, it's so boring to say constantly that training is the key for it. For the public, I think maybe looking at working in partnership with organisations like SAMH to offer support services within the libraries would be a good step. They have, cancer support with Macmillan in, Cancer Research Scotland. We have drinkware, age-wise, lots of groups that come in and offer within services here, but mental health is one of the ones that are maybe falling down on, and it's one of the ones that's on the rise. Lots of cuts to the services. Where do people go for support? And we want staff to feel that we're not so hesitant to speak to people about these issues if we've got the right support. And I wanted to kind of finish up by looking at a case study of something that we just launched that Terry had touched upon. That's the Citizens Advice Bureau Homelessness in Reach project. Lovely chap on the left is Pat, who is the Homeless in Reach officer here. And looking at the CAR project, we've been talking about it a lot over the last 2 years or so. It's really been, it might be something we can use, a model we can use to tackle other issues that we have in society and in the libraries themselves. I do feel the CAR project is a great example of where libraries support their patrons through difficult times. The Mitchell Library itself, it's based here, and it's a big warm building. It's open long hours. There's lots of space in it, and naturally it's been attracting people to come and sit. And we were noticing there was a large group of patrons who were coming in who were homeless in a variety of states of need. Some more obvious than others. And they were using the facility. There was no engagement from us with them. A lot of staff were getting frustrated by our inability to help people who were seeing them every day. And there was one particular gentleman we were seeing on a variety of days. He came in every single day, and over the course of a couple of years, he deteriorated quite dramatically. And it's upsetting and it's frustrating for staff to see that. So there was an offer made from Citizens Advice to come in to the library and pilot a homelessness in Reach initiative, which initially just started out as Pat and another member of the team using staff to identify where they felt the most need was. The staff get to talk to people at the desks, to get to know folk, to pass the time of day with people, and you get a kind of understanding of them. Even if they don't talk back, again, that's another understanding that you can get from them. And we were able to point people in Citizens Advice direction at that point, and it really took off. So we subsequently rolled out a full service model in the building, so all of CAB services at that point, homelessness, the initial focus, had now been replaced by everything that CAB do. And it has been a great success, but it does rely upon the library staff. The library staff were key to getting it set up, and I think if the library staff hadn't fully invested in it or hadn't trusted what the purpose of it was, I don't think it would have been as successful. And I think it was successful because the staff did buy into it, and they saw the benefit of it. That you can only help people so much. Other agencies have to step in, but where do you find that information from? And CAB was there. So there's lots of training involved in that, lots of formal sessions on CAB, what they do, what they can help with. We have people on homelessness awareness training, universal credit training. We knew the rollout was going to be happening. We didn't know necessarily personally where it was going to happen or what stages, so get people on that training was ideal. And all this just helped support the frontline staff, and it enabled us to get a positive relationship with positive results in the partnership. And I think the approach empowered the staff as well to be able to work alongside CAB, identify those they felt that were in need of some assistance or even just a bit of advice. We all heard stories of people going to the job centre and not being given the full picture of what's available to them until they are. I think there was rumours of a specific instruction from the DWP to say don't let folk know what, unless they ask or volunteer what is this, what is this, what is this, then you can volunteer that information out. So not having anywhere to turn to, especially people who just arrived in the city, no idea what services were there, no idea what CAB even was. So it was the onus was on our staff to kind of explain that. I think they did it really well. So in that time we've had people that have been lifted out of debt, we've had them rehomed, I find a doctor, something as simple as that. And in one case we've even had a man who was repatriated back home. He had arrived here with his brother 15 years ago, his brother had died, and he was stuck in limbo for 4 years, so being able to do those things, so positive and so rewarding, and it's instant results that the staff can see, it changes the people's lives, which is, very positive. It empowers people, it gives them the confidence to deal with the issues that previously we maybe do very little about. It's lifted a bit of that frustration for us, and I do think it's something very similar is needed for mental health. The increase in homelessness in the city, it hasn't come on its own. The mental health issues often come hand in hand with it, and you can see that. It's spent a lot of time in libraries, and initially somebody's homeless would be short spells, and the longer they're homeless, the more frustrated they become, often the more paranoid they become, and the more their behaviour starts to be shown in a way that you can't really have them in the library at that point, and that's where the frustration was for a lot of staff, because you don't want to be excluding people from these vital services, but if their behaviour is not addressed, you have to take it. It's a very difficult situation, and I don't think we're quite getting it right at the moment, and I would like to follow a model much like CAB, but it's a more complicated issue, it's difficult to do. But we have people who have fallen in the margins. Sometimes the public libraries are the margins, and to be able to offer them something, even if it is just a drop-in session that's been once a week, something confidential that people can turn up to and speak to folk or staff and point people towards, that would be ideal, something hopefully we could replicate. So I don't think that the CAB projects are necessarily over. We need just over a certain period of time to allow us to address again another need that we have in public libraries. It feels like a broken record. Training, all about training, making sure people are armed with the knowledge. We're an information service. If we don't provide the information to our staff, then we can't provide the information to the people coming through our doors. That's a long-winded way of telling you everyone should be trained, but that's it at the moment. But I'm happy to hang on to answer any questions at any point during the rest of the webinar. Thank you.
I always wondered that my assistants burn themselves out. I've never met a library assistant who won't go above and beyond to help anyone that sets foot in a library. How did Glasgow libraries try and ensure there's kind of safety nets in place for library assistants?
It's difficult, and there is that chance that people can burn out, and you can lose valuable members of staff who just can't cope with it anymore. And it has to be from the managers down. They have to be able to speak to the staff and encourage an environment where staff can come to them with any kind of issues, and even just safe spaces in the building where they can vent about what just occurred. We always try to say to people to be professional on the desk. That's what you have to do. But there's nothing to say. You don't have to be professional when you leave the desk at that point and have a chat privately and say how frustrated you were with what just happened. It has to be a safe space for people to be able to talk and get these things out. It's difficult. It's very difficult because everyone can deal with things differently. Some people can handle more of it, but yeah, it's hard.
We've got a question from do you think certain training on mental health should be mandatory and at what level?
I really do. I think at all levels. I think even just simply supporting your colleagues, even just being able to identify when you think a colleague is going through something and what you can do, even if it's not on a personal level, what you can do, but what can be done to support them through it. It's very important. I think it's something that we're not tackling enough in the workplace altogether. I think a lot of absences and illnesses that are recorded as bad backs or whatever it may be are probably masking issues beyond that. I think we need to be able to tackle it and support staff right from the beginning. I think most mental health issues should be mandatory, especially if you're dealing with the public. I don't see it being harmful in any way.
Yeah, I mean, I can probably speak for other colleges here as well. That we have an audience that are in those kind of years that are already challenging. The teenage years, the early 20s. So I am conscious that that sometimes don't have the time to be able to give them that kind of full support that we would like to, because there's hundreds of people coming through our door.
Yeah.
I just have one more question, Iain. I know you guys got a little bit of a grant funding to continue it.
Yeah.
Is this within just in the Mitchell, or is it through all the branch libraries in Glasgow?
For the fund itself or for CAB?
For the CAB.
At the moment it's just based here. There's universal credit hubs and employability hubs based in other parts of the city, identified by community library managers as to where the need was. A lot of them are based in the libraries where the universal credit was rolled out first. So there's a lot of employability assistance and whatnot there, but not necessarily housing assistance. I think there's a few, but we're certainly centrally taking up the CAB offer itself on behalf of the rest of the library, I think.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for that. I think we don't have any more questions for you, Iain, but cheers for being part of this. And if you could just mute the rain.
I know it wasn't quite bad.
Cheers, and I'll introduce our second presenter for today. Is Kate. Hi, Kate. So Kate's joining us from the gorgeous island of Stornoway, one of my favourite islands. Currently the Student Support Services Manager for Lews, this is a bit of a tongue twister, Lews Castle College, the University of Highlands and Islands. He established the counselling service in the college in 2012 and is a member of the UHI Student Support Group and the Disability Practitioners Group. She developed the Toolkit in 2017, and in 2018 UHI undertook a mental health service review, which has led to the development of a UHI mental health strategy group, which she also takes part in. Kate is both adept at strategy and practicality by also being at the sharp end, dealing with non-academic student issues affecting face-to-face and online students across Scotland. Over to you, Kate.
Hi, thank you very much for that kind intro. Is my sound level okay? Yep, okay. Right, well, I'm going to talk fairly obviously about the Mental Health Toolkit. I wasn't the only person involved in it. I was also in two of my colleagues, both based here in Stornoway with me, Rachel Erskine and Aileen McPhail, who are both tutors for online courses here. So, why is it important? I'm sorry if I'm preaching to the converted. Some of you will know all of this already, but I've had to do a lot of talking about this to people who aren't necessarily tuned in. So you can see the importance of mental health is just like physical health, and we've all got it, and sometimes we all haven't got it as good as we would like. The number of people that experience a mental health problem each year is high, and that's quite surprising for some people. It isn't maybe if you work with people, but for some people they don't recognise it that high. And what Penny was just saying about the age group, 75% of mental health problems are established by the age of 24. So we're often seeing people at stages when it's first becoming apparent if you're working in a university or a college. A terminology is a bit of an issue here, which is why I've highlighted that, because it's, do you call it a mental health problem, a mental health condition, a mental health issue? And it is important to be getting that right. These are extracts from other people's reports, which is why they're varied. But I'm just pointing it out because you can discuss that till the cows come home. But recent information has come out saying that 92% of students identified as having had feelings of mental distress. That's not entirely unsurprising when you've got deadlines, marks, money issues, etc., but it's still high. But when you look at the number, 13% had suicidal thoughts. That is quite scary. So we all need to be actually involved in it. Okay, so why do we as tertiary education staff need to be aware? And it's quite simple, because we have a duty of care to all students. And we need to know what we can do to help and where the boundaries of that begin and end. And from my own knowledge of library staff, you can very much be on the front line for contact with students at times of stress. I know that our librarians here have seen, it's when people are struggling with deadlines, it's when pressure is getting to people. If they're the sort of people that use the library, then you may well see people who are really struggling. So just as much as anybody else, you might be the one person that actually recognises that somebody is having a really tough time at the moment. Students, as just stated, when students are coming to college or university, they might be going through poor mental health for the first time. This has its own set of challenges because they might not be aware of what's going on. It must be very frightening. It can be very frightening for people who are not aware that this is what it is. And so they haven't got any support from any health professionals. And if they are away from home, it can complicate things because you've moved surgeries. And if you were linked into NHS services in one place, they might not be the same. There's a lot of discussion about the fact that students living away from home have to go through the whole referral process again, and it isn't very joined up. I know that there's work that's going on to deal with that, but we have to deal with it in the meantime. The UHI context, right, a little bit of context here as to, this is going to go into why we developed the toolkit. So UHI itself is a unique tertiary institution. We always like to say it covers an area the size of Belgium. And we've got 13 academic partners and at least 70 learning centres. Some of these learning centres will be small. They will occasionally be a porter cabin on an island. We've got one in Barra, and it's got one member of staff who looks after it. I think they've got about 100 students that access it at various points during the course of an academic year, but there's only one member of staff who's permanently there. So you can have issues of isolation for staff to be dealing with. We deal with everything from Squiffy level 1 right through to PhD research students. So you can have the full range of academic ability and life experience. Our ethos is to provide education in the communities where people live, so they don't have to leave in order to access quality education, which has its own challenges. I work from Stornoway, but Lewscastle College has campuses on Benbecula and also on Barra and North Uist. Now, people think, oh, I can just pop down there. I can't just pop down there. It don't work like that. Ferries don't work. It's a long way to drive. It's single track road, quite a lot of it. So there is these kinds of issues that providing the same quality of education, we try to provide equivalence of experience as much as possible. We are also a widening access institution, and we have rural and urban issues. Obviously, people that are based in Perth and Inverness have far more urban issues to deal with. Most of the rest of us are dealing with rural, small town stuff, and isolated hinterlands. There's your map of the Highlands and Islands, so you can see the reach. It's pretty high, right up into Orkney and Shetland, and for us down into Stornoway and right the way down, but it's pretty scattered, so it does present geographical challenges. I've put Vive la Différence. I mean, it depends on how you view these things. Travel issues are one issue which, particularly in bad weather, can be dreadful. Currently we've got Highlands and Islands air traffic controllers going on a work to rule, so that's putting air traffic at a bit of a problem. We've got terrible problems with the ferries. However, we do have mobile phones and broadband. Some people think that, you know, it's really Hicksville. We do, but they're not everywhere and they're not available all the time. It can dip in and out. If the weather's really bad, signal can go, things can disappear. And 4G is something that I'm still currently dreaming of. I can get it sometimes, but not a lot of the time. We do VC video conference, online and blended teaching. So people might get taught in a variety of different ways, which is very different to a standard student experience. And we do tend to have a more mixed student cohort, with not all of them being school leavers. We have quite a large percentage of people upskilling from their late 20s up, because they want to stay living and working where they are, and they're trying to improve their prospects of that. Just to give you an idea of the kinds of things that we've been dealing with, LCC is Lews Castle College. So in this last year, mental health was the second largest disclosed disability after dyslexia, which I think is high. The tide has changed. That has come a lot. People are a lot more ready to actually disclose it, which is positive. But locally here, we had 2 teenage suicides in August, just before everybody started back in September, and both had got college links. We had a suicide completed by a student at New Year, during the New Year Christmas break. We've had several students with suicidal intention during the year, both face-to-face and online students. And we've had to have police involvement to find a vulnerable student who was suicidal. So we are not a nice little rural idyll with everybody living happily ever after. We face the same issues, I think everybody is doing everywhere. So the toolkit was developed because we'd got issues regarding online students who had mental health difficulties, either disclosed or undisclosed, and it was realising that we needed to approach them in a different way. We were very lucky. We got some Mawby Insight funding. Mawby is Student Services and Higher Education, and they give some project funding every year. Not a large amount, I have to say. It was about £3,500. And we are not trying to replicate the NHS or at all to be a diagnostic tool. We are not trying to be Dr. Google in any way at all. But the purpose is to help staff. So it's a staff resource to support students with mental health conditions, all in one place, because stuff was scattergunned all over the place. And its other aim is to increase staff knowledge, understanding and confidence to help students to maximise their potential, because that's what we want to do at the end of the day. But the USP that we had was to focus on the differing needs and responses required for online and mature students. Most of the resource that was already out there there's some very good stuff, but it was based at young students leaving home for the first time and going away, and that didn't fit our profile as well as we'd like it to, so we felt it was important to do that. I'll show you the resource shortly, I hope, fingers crossed, but it was being well received externally, presented it at Mawby's annual conference, at the Association of University Administrators Conference and various other places throughout the last year. And it has been well received. Because we got the Mawby funding, it is an open access resource. So it is available for anybody to look at, use and do what they like with. We do annual updates. Now, it was first produced in November 2017 and it hasn't been annual yet. I am working on it. We're hoping to get it done during June have it updated, but to be honest, that was just because we had more time to be able to do it after it had run for a full academic year as well. The update is important because it's not meant to be a be-all and end-all. We need to revamp the support part, update resources and apps because there's new things coming online all the time, and add in a section particularly about postgrad research students because we had some input from the graduate school, and they said that we weren't sort of covering the right terminology so that people related it to that. So that was fine. And as said, we want user feedback. It's very welcome because we need to know what to do to make it better and to make it work better for people. I'm well aware that it has terminology that very much relates to how we do things within UHI that might not be relevant for other places. But the basic concepts hopefully should still be true. And our other main aim is to try to get staff to increase awareness and the uptake of it, which is an ongoing situation. We have also, as part of what we're doing around mental health, is we have a series called a library guide, it's a LibGuide, of reading well books, and the link is there, and they're really great. Every partner college that with library facilities has got a set of these books, and there's a wonderful range, including things like Susan Kalman's book Sunny Side Up, I think it is, something like that. There's Joe Brand, but there's lots of practical stuff about how to help yourself, meditation, books on that kind of thing, books on yoga, but also books that look at particular mental health issues and in the way of being self-help resource. So we feel it's important that we're doing that, and we try to do promotion of that around Mental Health Week, and the availability of that, because they're just mainstream books. So now the Mental Health Conditions Toolkit, and fingers crossed it will now go to the web link. So can everybody see that? Yes or no?
Yep. No. No.
No. Right, hang on a minute. Have you got it?
I'm trying to share your screen. Share screen.
Okay.
Sorry, the little arrow. Here we go. And share my screen. Fingers crossed. Right. Yeah.
Okay, is that showing now?
Yes.
Yes? Hooray. Right, so this is the toolkit. This is the landing page. So that explains what it is. Click on the first bit, that's mental health conditions. Now, there are a few there. They are actually in alphabetical order. I have had to explain that because somebody wanted to know if alcohol misuse disorder was the main one that we had. They're actually alphabetical order, and these were the key ones that people were presenting with that are well known. I mean, obviously, you can keep going on and on with this, but it gave a rough idea. And if you go to, say, anxiety, which is a very common one, this is the format for all of them. So there's the overview, there's what the symptoms might be, there's how it might affect face-to-face students or what you can do to help and support somebody who's a face-to-face student, what you can do to support somebody if they're an online student. So again, it's looking at the different ways that we teach. And then this bit, the unhelpful actions and comments, we put that in specifically based on staff request, because I think one of the main things that people don't want to do is to cause any further distress or put their foot in it. So that's why that's there, and it was trying to give people things not to do so that they know that that's not a good idea, because most things are done with the best of intentions. So they follow that kind of thing. If I go to, say, post-traumatic stress, you can see it's the same kind of thing. So there's an overview, there's the symptoms and what they might be. There's how it might be with face-to-face students, so you can run through that. There's how it might affect an online student, and again back to the unhelpful actions and comments. So it's just a way, because it takes so much for people to get to the point of having got a diagnosis in some instances, that people can be very forthcoming. If they've got a diagnosis, they will come and they will say, I have got PTSD, I have got a drug misuse disorder. And you don't always know what that actually means, and you need to go away and check it up and think, okay, so exactly how does that affect them? It gives you a clue into what might be going on for them, allowing for the fact that everybody's an individual. Then there's wellbeing warning signs. Now, we're well aware not everybody likes the emojis. Some people like them, some people loathe them, but we did feel that for us, they gave us just a small clue as to where to go with different things. So again, you can have, let's try burnout. So these are based on, if you've got a student coming to you and you think there's something not right there, you can have a look and just see what might be happening. There's an overview of it, something about the signs, something about what might be helpful for face-to-face students. Now that's based on mostly on tutor stuff, but it also has relevance for support staff as well, about how to actually deal with people. The same for online students. Quite often it's similar, or it might even be exactly the same, but sometimes there can be nuances with online because you can't see them. You're having to, and some online students, you never actually meet. They deal with stuff by webinars, by seminars, virtual seminars, online classrooms. So you can tell by the way that they sometimes are interacting in chat rooms and things like that. And then again, the unhelpful actions and comments. And then one of the other ones, let's go to stress, oh no, go to psychosis, because it does happen, sadly, that we have somebody that might be actually having a psychotic episode. So again, it just takes you through what it is, what it might be, how possibly to deal with it, and the things that you can do, how to deal with it if it's happening in an online environment, and things not to do. Then we go on to support. Now this is the section that I'm currently rewriting because it needs rewriting. However, I'll take you through what's here. It's very important to think about boundaries because we are not trying to replicate the NHS or social services, and we need to be comfortable with what we are doing, that we know the limits and that we're quite happy to pass on to other people. And I think that can be really important for everybody, because when you're faced with something, your instinct, particularly if you're a caring person, is to actually deal with it yourself, and you might not always have the right skills, and sometimes it can be really helpful to get somebody else involved. There's teamwork and information sharing. Again, it's about not doing things on your own, and it's about seeking support, because these things can be difficult and stressful for you to be dealing with, and you need support, and you need to make sure that you're getting the right people involved so that the student is getting the right support that they need. At the end of the day, everything has to be about the well-being of the student. There's information about disclosed mental health issues. We're getting more people that are disclosing. I mean, these figures need updating, but it was 15% of UHI students disclosed a mental health issue in 16-17. Now we know that will have gone up, but just because somebody's disclosed a mental health issue doesn't automatically mean they need support. It's the same as anybody who has, for example, asthma. If it's well controlled, it's fine. It's not a problem. They can get on and carry on being a student. But if it's not terribly well controlled, or they're working in an atmosphere with a lot of dust, or in hairdressing where there's a lot of hairspray, it might be. So it's those kinds of things. It's about looking at the overall thing and how we can do these things to support people. Obviously, it's anecdotal, but students with mental health issues may be disproportionately attracted to online courses because it means that they can do it from home. They don't have to interact with people. It can be done on their own time frame. So we can find that that is something that we come across. But obviously you get a lot of people who disclose once they're on the course, particularly once they feel a bit more comfortable, they've not been rejected, they're settling in. And it could easily be that they reveal it to you. It could be that the librarian or whatever is the person that they feel that they can talk to, or you just end up in a conversation. If they do disclose, it's important that that gets passed on and that we know, but only if they're comfortable with it. But we do have a duty to do that, and they should be comfortable with it, because the only things we're going to do will be to support them. I've gone into a bit then about academic staff and the different roles that the different people have, like a department head should have a twofold one, to make sure that staff have resourcing and support they need to help students, but also to have a duty of care for the staff. Have I gone past the I've probably gone past the polls questions, haven't I? I'm sorry.
Kate, would you like to do those at the end?
Yeah, I'll do them at the end if that's all right.
Okay.
Yeah, I've just realised that I've gone past them.
No problem.
Okay. There's information there for personal academic tutors, module tutors, and the professional standards. Again, that link needs updating because it's changed. But also we've got to put other stuff in. The same for support staff, because depending on your institution, there might be student support services, disability staff, learning support, wellbeing counselling services, who all might have a role, but you need to know who's in your institution and what they do. Obviously, there's other support staff, which includes library people, and it can be you that deals with these things, because the case study there was somebody in finance who was contacting somebody about an unpaid bill. These things happen. It could be you contacting somebody about an outstanding fine or a book that they've got out. There's support options, which again, it isn't just these. We need to look at reasonable adjustments, and there are other things that we can do as well. So we're going to be expanding that. We've got our own policies, and we've got the external links. And the external links is again another bookcase, and it's divided into general, student specific and mental health training. So there's actually a lot of different resource there, depending on what, and it's quite good to browse through that and just have a look and see. There's apps, there's websites, there's places that you can refer people to, there's things that might help. I think that's it for that. So I did have some questions. Oh gosh, where am I? Oh, I need to come back to my webcam and stop sharing. There we go. So stop sharing. So I've got poll questions there. So if you can just answer that poll question. Have you had to deal with a student in crisis during the course of this academic year? That's a reasonably, I think there's a fair few people that have at the moment. And I think that's, do I broadcast the results? Okay, so, oh, heck. Second one was, did you feel you had the sufficient knowledge, if you were in that position, sufficient knowledge or training to feel comfortable to deal appropriately with the crisis, which is a very difficult thing. Again, it's back to Iain's point about training and what people know, which actually affects people's confidence in dealing with these situations. I'll give it another couple of minutes for a couple of other people to add in if they want to vote. Okay. So at the moment, there are 72% of people here are saying that they didn't feel that they had sufficient knowledge or training to deal with it, and 3 people were not sure. Sorry, which is 27%. So I think it's interesting that it is something that people feel very unsure about. That's entirely understandable. It's not an easy thing to be dealing with. And then, so has your institution ever given you the opportunity to undertake any mental health training? Okay, well that's looking a bit more positive, that quite a lot of people have, which is really good to know. Yeah, most people have, which I think is excellent and is really cheering. So anybody that hasn't, I think, can quite cheerfully go back to their place to say, I should, everybody else is. And then the last poll is, have you undertaken any of the following? Which one have you done? I've put down the main ones. So there's Scottish Mental Health First Aid, there's Safe Talk, there's Assist. Charlie Waller Memorial Trust is a great resource that's online that you can do quite simply and quickly, but it's got some really good resources and it's great for getting you thinking about the subject. The CDN Mental Health module, which I've done myself as well and found really good. But I've done all of these apart from Safe Talk myself. I went straight into Assist, lucky me. And a couple of people have done something else as well, which is good because I'm well aware that there are a lot of different resources out there. I think it's really important that people do get the chance to undertake it, and anybody ever gets the chance to do the Assist course. I did it last year for the first time and I found it absolutely really, really good. One of the best courses that I've been on. We've also had a discussion recently within UHI that we ought to look at, I think we set the timeline on, if you did Scottish Mental Health First Aid, that you should probably do it again every 5 to 6 years because it changes quite a lot. And we certainly seem to be thinking that would be a really good idea because, again, I did that a long time ago and I think a refresher would be good. I'll shut up talking now. If anybody's got questions, Iain said, can it be tailored to suit the sector? The answer is you can take what we've got there and tailor it to suit yourself because that's the whole point of it. We're going to be updating it, so I would say wait until we've done the update because that might actually help a bit. But feel free to use it or not use it as is appropriate. And if there is feedback, please let me know because we are willing and open to feedback.
Fantastic.
Anybody else?
I think, you know, just looking through the chat whilst you were presenting there, I think we were all absolutely delighted with the unhelpful actions section within the toolkit because I think that is a big concern for library teams. We are always a little bit worried that we'll actually acerbate a situation, make it worse, make a student feel even less confident and comfortable. And you know, I mean, that's the de facto of a library service. I just have one question. Have you noticed an increase in more disclosure from online students with the launch of the toolkit?
It's a very good question, and I wish I could give a definitive answer. I think so, yes. I deal with a lot of the online students, and I'm well aware that it is improving. And I think it's probably not so much because of the toolkit, because the toolkit's aimed at staff, but I think it is giving staff the confidence to feel that they can talk to their students. Because I don't necessarily get involved until the student has actually come forward and said that they have got an issue. But it is, I think it's been surprising for a large number of students, online and physical ones, that something can be done, that actually we can put a few things in place, and it can be as simple as having a support plan that says that they can have extra time to submit work if they're having a particularly bad episode or a bad week or their medication's been changed. And I think that level of reassurance can be really helpful for some students.
Well, I think we would all love a copy of the toolkit when when the update is done. Is that shared under Creative Commons? I'm just thinking, if we used it in City of Glasgow College, we would probably want to adapt it to the college landscape.
The link that is on the presentation should be the open access resource. You should be able to get it. And if you can't, then please just search under Mental Health Toolkit. It does come up under a MOSH website as well. So it is available, and please give it a go. Because yes, we're happy. I would say, like I say, just wait and give us till the summer to get the revised version out, so that nobody's trying to do anything from scratch again. But at least we'll have a few updates then, and then please feel free to use it, take it. We know that some colleges have taken it and adapted it for themselves, or they just use it as a resource that they direct people to, because you can cut out the bits that aren't relevant if the terminology doesn't fit.
That's brilliant. That's absolutely fantastic. Has anyone got any other questions for either Kate or Iain? Well, I think you're both off the hook. And with that, I'd really just like to close the webinar session, and thank you both for giving us some insight and actually some practical tips on how to cope with it. Thank you, and thank you both at the class. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks to the presenters. Please note we have recorded this webinar and it will be available on our website.